Hey, everybody. Amy Register here with my mom, Teresa Register, also known as the Home Health Mentor. Today, we were chatting a little bit earlier about marketing for your agency. And we've got a series coming up I think you'll like. We're going to intro it today with a couple of cautionary tales and then one really big tip that we think you can start implementing. It's going to make a huge impact on how you're able to market yourself. So, with that, this is my mom's voice. T. Regi, take it away. Tell us what we're getting into today.
Well, the topic I want to talk about is what is home health marketing? Above all else, it's comprehensive. It's not just about the printed material you can hand out or the people that you hire to go out and go to doctors' offices and meet with case managers. It really needs to be done at all levels of the agency because it's about building relationships. In real estate, we've all heard the saying, it's location, 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 right?
Yep.
In home health, it's about relationships, relationships, relationships. So it's hard to sell a mansion in a rundown neighborhood, and it's hard to market a home health agency that doesn't provide great care.
Yes.
The, the value must be in the sale. So that's foundational truth number one.
Yeah. As somebody who loves marketing and public relations and has offered my services even for free for like causes and missions I really believe in, it's so awesome to walk in as a marketing professional or somebody who's just a concerned citizen and find that there's a product that you can even market. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. Perception and reputation are important, but patient satisfaction and good patient outcomes, like we talked about last week, are what validates those perceptions and continues to build your good reputation. In the 7 years that I spent surveying home health agencies, I would often hear stories of woe from the owners and or administrators about how competitive their market was. The owners or administrators would say their lack of growth in their particular location was because of all of the home health agencies that were competing for the same pool of patients. So if I'm a prospective patient or a referral source, I would ask those administrators and owners, tell me why I would choose your agency over your competitors. And almost without hesitation, they would say, well, because we give great care.
Yeah.
So,
We were laughing earlier, when somebody says, tell me about yourself or tell me about your agency, they really are looking for those point of differentiators. And I have yet to ask somebody to tell me about their agency or their business or themselves and heard anything really refreshing and new about, like nobody says, well, we don't provide great care, but we do. Like, there's nothing that's not a funny joke in the industry. So even though secretly I would love to hear somebody say, hey, we're working on our care, but here's what we do awesome. No, that's just the standard that everyone's going to reply with. So it's like, yeah, and what else?
right. By saying that, they are almost implying that their competitors give bad care, right? Yet their competitors are the ones being more successful. And you wonder why they would think that they're not being successful if they're giving great care.
Yeah. And there's, like part of this podcast we've been talking about so many weeks is how stringent the requirements for great care are. So if you're in business, you're like, you're probably decent, especially after we talked about those star ratings. Like, let's just assume that everybody's decent, everybody's giving a level of great care. Now, tell me more about that care. What's above and beyond about it, or what else do you do for your clients?
Yeah, when the owner or administrator says we give great care, um, I just am not buying that they have nothing that differentiates them. They probably just haven't figured out what it is yet.
Right. Yeah, there's probably
Right.
something great someone's doing that you could highlight.
Or if they put an appropriate strategy in place, they could be offering something that no one else is. And they
Mhm.
could be differentiating themselves in the market, but maybe they just can't think creatively to come up with an appropriate way to do that.
Yeah, I
I
love
am a I'm a firm believer that cream always floats to the top. So if you are an agency that is committed to excellent care and you just need help differentiating yourself in the marketplace, you can do that. You just have to maybe get some help to do it. You've probably heard of the 80-20 rule.
Mhm.
In home health, you need to be at least in that top 20% to survive long term and to grow.
Mhm.
And I'm not referring to the size of the agency. I'm talking about the level of patient satisfaction and the patient outcomes, like we talked about last week.
Mhm.
So,
So if the agency is doing some of the things we talked about last week in order to get the star ratings, that's gonna be easier for them. Now they just need to figure out how to talk about it, how to put it in their printed material, how to create a campaign around all the things that they're doing well.
right. Yeah,
And they gotta have
they
people to
need a
talk to.
strategy. I didn't hear you. What?
And they need to have those relationships in place, like you were saying, so that they can talk about those with people who already know, like, and trust them.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to do is go through some basics. Obviously, we don't have time right now to go into great depth, but I do want to give the listeners some basics.
Let's
First,
do it.
yeah, first you need to if you have marketing staff or if you are going out and marketing your business, you need something to brag about. You need something that you can use to differentiate yourself from your competitors. And secondly, like I said at the start, this is a comprehensive effort and you need to build relationships at all levels. That means with patients, with referral sources, and with the community at large. So I'm just going to go through each of those three areas and give you some suggestions. First of all, the patient. You want to make sure your staff understands that you expect them to treat patients like family. If you find out that they're not, if you get a lot of complaints from patients about your staff, you really need to make some decisions about whether that person is representing your agency the way you want them to.
Mhm.
What what that means to me is that you tell your staff first and foremost, you are there for the patient's benefit, not your own.
Mhm.
You listen to them. Don't fill their ears with your troubles, your concerns. You are there for them. You listen to them. You answer their questions. You try to educate them. We talked last week about responding to calls for help. If they call after hours, you want to respond promptly. If somebody is needing a last minute referral, you don't shrug your shoulders and say, "Oh, I already admitted 4 patients today. I can't take one more."
Mhm.
You contact your administrator and you find a way to take care of that patient. And we also protect their rights like a dog with a bone. you are an advocate and you protect your patients' rights. You go to bat for them. A quick story: one of the agencies that I surveyed early in my career was taking like 60% of her patients were essentially destitute. There was one
Wow.
patient in particular that I made a home visit with the staff to see. It was an elderly gentleman. He had huge, huge bed sores, and
Mm.
and the hospital had discharged him with gauze and saline solution. Obviously, that guy was not going to do well.
Wow.
So when I saw the patient and talked with the nurse, who was also the owner, she filled me in on what she had done to get that patient some supplies. She went to bat for that patient. She wrote letters. She, started fundraising for him. She got a company to donate equipment and supplies. It took her long hours and persistence to do that, but she really went to bat for that patient. And what is it, 15 years later, she's still my hero.
That really is like home health hero status.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes. So yeah, be advocates for your patients. The second is building relationships with your referral sources. Again, I'm thinking of a hospital where I worked in Southern California a number of years ago. And one of the complaints that I heard from the case managers in the hospital was that we were unable to always take the referrals that they wanted to give us, especially on Fridays. Anyone in the home health business or anyone in hospital discharge planning knows that hospitals try to empty the hospital on Fridays.
Mhm.
they have they have less staff and they have less qualified and experienced staff usually on weekends. And so hospitals do really try to get patients out before the weekend. It's also a good time for the patients to go home because normally they have more family that are able to help them
Mhm.
transition to home. But the problem is that home health agencies aren't always well staffed on weekends to do admissions. We tend to think wrongly, that home health is a Monday through Friday kind of business. If you're thinking that way, you're probably not going to be successful. If you are thinking that you do not have to do weekend work and admissions, then someone else is going to get those referrals who will do that. What we did is we hired extra weekend staff. We also anticipated the amount of time it was going to take our intake staff and our liaison staff on Thursdays and Fridays in helping to get those patients ready for discharge. And we had our nurses, who were our liaison staff, we had them just stay with their phones and be ready to take those patients that the discharge planners were trying to move out of the hospital. And by
Yeah, that's interesting
improving,
because at some point, the more phone calls you can take on a Friday, the better you're gonna be compared to your competitors. I know that's a whole 'nother staffing issue. Maybe we can talk about that in a future podcast because finding extra weekend help might be a challenge, in some areas, but I love the idea.
it can be a challenge, but if people are thinking strategically, they will understand that paying your weekend staff more for working the weekend and giving them a great, per visit payment, if you do have to do an admission, is money well spent. And
Mhm.
if you have good nurses doing thorough admissions, then and they determine which patients really are qualified for home health, it will save you in the long run. So, and it will give
Awesome.
you a lot more referrals. So, someone said something to me once, long time ago, that stuck in my mind. It's you go home with the person you danced with last. So, what they meant by that, as far as referrals, if you are the person that talked to that case manager most recently, you're likely to get that referral.
Yeah, that's great.
So make sure that you're available and that you anticipate that those patients are going to need to get out of the hospital. Keep in
Yeah.
mind,
It sounds
keep
like
in
you could
mind,
also make a few phone calls yourself and be proactive about it if if you had extra room, if you have extra people, having someone to just do a check-in call.
um, yes, there used to be a more open system in hospitals where home health liaison staff could go into the hospitals and go meet face to face with case managers. In a lot of places, they've stopped that. They won't let
Oh,
agencies into the hospital. But if you are doing things right, you will get more calls. And I'm going to go into a little bit more of that. But keep in mind that your case managers in the hospitals are trying to get home. They're trying to leave, usually by 4 or 5 o'clock on Fridays.
yes.
They're trying to move their problem onto your to-do list.
Yes. And
So
they do have a little bit more 9 to 5ishness in
they
in
do.
their job role.
Yes, they are there. That's how they're hired, Monday through Friday. Home health agencies need to operate more like hospitals in that we need to be out there available 24/7,
Mhm.
and that means weekends as well as Monday through Friday. So we need to plan for those anticipated discharges and be ready to make it easy for those case managers to move patients to us on Fridays, whether
Yes.
it's early Friday, late Friday. But Fridays are a big discharge day. So we need to
Yes.
be ready to take those patients.
Makes sense.
It's surprising to me that more agencies don't think like that. Why more agencies don't have that strategy in place. We want to make the
Mm.
referral process as quick and easy as possible. If you have a good relationship with case managers, a lot of times they already know what information you're going to need and they'll already be putting together that information. Of course, one of the big things that you're going to need as a home health agency is documentation that a face to face meeting between the physician and the patient has taken place and that the physician that's discharging that patient has signed that face-to-face document.
Mhm.
And if you're a liaison person, you'll know what that means. You want to get the agency's marketing staff and clinical staff together face to face in some meetings. You want them
Mhm.
working as a team so that the marketing staff can take information back to the referral sources and let them know how the patient is doing.
Mhm.
They want to know. They want to know that you have taken good care of those patients. They've spent time discharge planning. They want some feedback. The same with the physician's office staff who have referred patients. One thing that we do that I think is really effective, whenever we have staff who have a little bit of time between visits, or our census is such that we can nab one of our clinicians, that means our therapists, our any of our nursing staff, we will have our liaison staff take one of our clinicians to meet the hospital staff, the doctors, wherever those liaison staff are going,
Mhm.
wherever our marketing staff are dropping off orders, picking up orders, getting referrals. They'll take our clinicians with them so that people can meet each other. So there can be a face with the name,
Mhm.
and that person can fill in that referral source specifically with what's going on with the patient. So that's been really effective.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
The last group or the last level of marketing is with your community. When the agency gets actively involved in supporting community efforts of one kind or another, I think they would be surprised at the way the community begins to respond. For example, if there's a race for the cure, if there's an Alzheimer's group that's sponsoring an event,
Mm.
our agency will get T-shirts that show that it's our staff, and we will go and participate in that fundraiser by showing up, and we're all we all look the same.
Mhm.
It gets noticed, and people start to notice that you care about your community, and they respond to that. Some other things
Yeah.
that
I'm
Go ahead.
thinking about how that could be overwhelming, like, in a big city, but I think some of the stuff we talked about at the beginning, like, just knowing what you're doing and doing well, kind of knowing your why, like, somebody might just really care about, like you said, a certain kind of cancer care or cancer cure. You might have a significant number of patients, or that might just be something that's touched your life and your family. Or you could just focus on, like a 5-mile radius, like what's closest to you if you're in a city. Um, and you don't have to start everywhere at once, right? You can just pick a cause or pick some things and just show up for people.
Right. One of the things to keep in mind is that I don't want this to sound manipulative, but you are probably going to want to choose marketing events or participation in community events that are in line with your mission. And
Yes.
sometimes, for example, if you have a hospice, you are going to want to support, the American Cancer Society, maybe,
Right.
or Kidney Foundation, or, you're going to be strategic about it from that standpoint. You're also going to consider your referral sources and what kinds of physicians are referring patients to you, and what some of the causes are that support them and their efforts. So
Yeah.
there's some strategy to choosing which events you want to support. Sometimes it's just, a fun thing that you want your staff to participate in, and sometimes it's something that is real strategic. But yes, you can't do everything, but choose the things that are in line with your mission and according to some strategy that makes sense for your organization.
Right. I love it. Yeah, like we might all have a passion for providing eyewear and, be interested in Lions Club, but unless kind of everybody agreed that that was one we are just going to do, that doesn't normally have a ton to do with home health. So,
Right.
yeah, I see what you're saying, and I can see how it'd come off wrong, but, like, doing good in the world is doing good in the world, and if it
Right.
happens to fit with your mission, then it's really just a stronger sense of your business and marketing plan. It's not saying like, "Oh, we're only doing this because it benefits us and gives us dollars." It's like, "No, we really do care, but we have a certain amount of time, so let's really focus on this one thing." Because we know if
Right.
you had all the time in the world, your bent is helping people. That's why you're in home healthcare. We
Right.
know that you're not trying to be greedy, but go ahead and do things that go along with where you're already showing up in the world.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes that it does come across wrong when you say, yeah, we're going to be strategic about where we put our resources. But let's face it, we are all strategic in where we put our resources, in our personal lives, in our religious lives, in our school situation, whatever you're in, you're focusing your efforts where it's going to make the most difference in what you're trying to accomplish. So in our agency, we have had to choose which things we have the resources for, which things our staff believe in and will get behind. Sometimes it's just, what will your staff get excited about doing? And our
Yeah.
staff are on a salary. So we don't pay them to do these things and we don't require them to do things, but let me tell you, they show up. They
Yeah.
get behind it. So
You're the group that you work with, phenomenal group of people who have created a company culture that involves volunteerism and service, and that's really cool to see. I know that there are a lot of home health heroes out there with big hearts like that. So I think this is kind of right up the home healthcare alley. But like you say, unless it's like a citywide or like a national effort, focusing on those things that are most directly correlated with the kind of patients you see and care for seems to make the most amount of sense.
and sometimes, like I said, it might be just, for the benefit of your staff to make them feel cared about. And we have, for example, sponsored a girls' baseball team. And, that may be the way you enter a community kind of effort is just through what's important to your staff. What would they feel good about your company getting behind? So it's one of those things that is maybe open for discussion and what makes sense for your particular agency. It doesn't have to be what any other agency is doing. Just do something that gets your name out there in front of people and begin to show that you care about the community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There are two things that I wanted to end on, and that is two things that I've seen over the years that I would caution people about. The first is I've seen a lot of agencies that are in a startup phase or they've been around, but they're just not getting the number of referrals that they think they should be getting. They're not getting their piece of the pie.
Hmm.
So sometimes they will uh, entice a marketer that's worked for a competitor who has a lot of contacts, and they think, if I can only hire this marketing person, I'll start getting a lot of referrals. Just keep in mind that if for some reason that person becomes unhappy with you or someone else pays them more money, they're not only going to leave, they're going to take all of those referral sources with them. So,
Yeah, if
you
you're
know,
being shady, this is not, don't be shady. It's like the same thing with a relationship. If
what you
you're,
want is loyalty.
yeah,
You want
it's
loyalty.
like, it's just a little bit too on the edge for me. It's like, there's a wonderful person. If they would only cheat with me, I'd be so happy. But I watched that show Cheaters, and I know that sometimes cheaters don't just cheat with you. They're the next
Right.
in line.
There's no honor among thieves. Is that kind of
Maybe something like that. By the way, not trying to make a judgment call on cheaters out there. Just saying what I saw on the television.
well, I saw it in real life. I would
Yeah.
see agencies, there would be someone reaching out to me, or I would go to do a survey, and all of a sudden their referral base drops out from under them, and I'm like, "What happened? You were doing well, and now you're not. What happened?" Oh well, we had hired a marketer, and someone else hired them and took them away from us and took all of our referrals. took all of our, our sources
Mm.
away. So a word of caution, just be really careful not to hire somebody and, entice them with big dollars just to get them to come to your agency, because the next guy might hire them $10, more, and they're gone. What you want is you want competent people who have standards and practice ethically, and that you can build relationships with, not just try and get a lot of referrals overnight. Hopefully that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Man, it's gonna
um,
sound like I'm knocking a bunch of people today too, but I have friends who are in the hairstyling industry, and like this is one of the biggest things that they talk about is their business is booming because they hired, a stylist who's done great
yes.
marketing themselves, and they're bringing a lot of people into the salon. But then that relationship turns for whatever reason. Somebody's not getting the compensation they thought they deserved. And boom, they take it, and all the clients leave with them. And there's just such a bitter,
Yes,
aftertaste in people's mouths. So, like,
exactly.
if you've got a great product, then you're not going to have trouble finding somebody who would love to market you. Marketing's fun. And so keep up your great product and then hire somebody with an understanding that their job is to help you create relationships. It shouldn't just be the marketer and the referral sources. That's dangerous. You want to see them integrating that, bringing other staff members into conversations and involving the team.
Yes. The other thing is, a lot of times people who don't have much background in home health, but they have been marketing other kinds of things, a lot of times they don't really understand what a good referral is. They don't understand who a good candidate is for home health. And they're just trying to get patients' names on a piece of paper, or, in an
Mhm.
email to you.
Mhm.
They're just trying to get numbers into your door. Sometimes it's downright dangerous. Sometimes they're trying to admit patients or bring you patients that home health is not the appropriate level of care.
Not a
Uh,
good fit.
no, it's not. And so you're wasting time assessing those patients, having someone go out to the home to visit them, only to find out they're not a good candidate. They don't meet the qualifications. So
Mhm.
you don't want uneducated referrals coming in. You want people to know what kind of patients are appropriate.
Yeah.
So
And you as a business owner need to know what your capabilities are, like, and I don't just mean right now, but what's coming in 6 months. If you're going to be doing infusion therapy or whatever. So you can make those down the road marketing decisions and kind of prepare, because maybe you could get a great marketer who just didn't know the industry, but you need to be prepared to ramp them up so that you need to know your numbers and where you're going to concentrate before you hire the marketer, basically. Like,
yes,
I've got I've got two friends who own different mechanic shops. One of them knows their business and knows their numbers really well. And they know that, say, like, Toyotas between 1999 and 2020 are their bread and butter. Their people know how to work on Toyotas, and they make more dollar per hour than other vehicle types. So, like, then when their people are out in the community and they're advertising, they're actually looking for people with Toyotas to serve. This says Toyota owner, right? And then the other guy's just like, yeah, we're good at everything. We take everything. But one guy's way more successful than the other because he knows his business and his niche, and he knows how to market there.
yes. So yeah, applying that kind of a strategy to home health is good too. That's not to say that that's all we do in home health. We take patients in our particular agency. We take patients that a lot of agencies won't take, and
Mhm.
it's not because we're um, so worried about our referral sources. It's who we are. It's just what
Right.
we do. And our
That's
referral
part.
sources know that. They know that we care about people, and that's why we're taking them. We're not taking
Yeah.
them just to say, okay, we'll take this bad patient if you give us 10 good ones. That's not, it's not a, it's not a deal. Um,
But I will say, like, just knowing how you guys are run, that you actually can do that because you're so tight and do such a good job on the other stuff and finding the good fits. It frees
yes,
you up to have leeway to take somebody that's more difficult and more time consuming.
yes. Well, my last thought that I wanted to share is that you want to avoid the feeling or imposing on your marketing people that they have to meet a quota. When people start focusing on the quota, they
Mm,
are they are getting distracted from what really matters, and that is the needs of the patients and being able to appropriately assess which patients are appropriate for home health. So
mhm,
you don't want quotas, you want people in your marketing staff who are competent. My preference, if I had my druthers, they would probably, at least most of them, would be RNs because of the attention to details and the medication issues that we need to know about when patients are being assessed for admissions. Um,
mhm.
but um, I probably shouldn't have said that because I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail. But the
Bring it.
truth is, but the truth is, um, you want people who know what nurses are going to encounter in the home. And because of that, I have found that our RN case managers that have moved into liaison positions are excellent at making those kinds of judgment calls.
Mhm,
So that we have some great LVNs as well. Um, Usually, those are the ones that have had some additional training on medication management, infusion therapy, probably not new graduates. So it's, my preference would be to have that level of people. But,
it's not who
um,
you are, it's how much training you've had. Calm down. You'll
and
be
your and
yeah.
your own ability to take the initiative and learn what you're doing. So obviously not to say anything bad about any individuals. I'm just talking about experience and training, and their
Mhm,
background in home health is really valuable. Um, the the staff that go out and represent your organization is really important. But as I mentioned last week and this week, you have to have the quality of services behind that. You can't, your marketing people can't go out and just sell a concept. It has to be
mhm,
backed up with reality. So it's important to get your marketing staff and your clinical staff together and give them time to talk about uh, what works and what doesn't work. Your marketing people can provide really good suggestions to your clinical staff, and the clinical staff can let the marketing staff, if they're seeing patients come out that aren't really appropriate for home health, they can
mhm,
help them understand what they need to do differently.
mhm,
So this is not just all warm, fuzzy talk.
mhm,
Um, just to give a little bit of background about our agency, it started in the fall of 2016, and we started with a handful of patients. And using this approach to building our relationships, we have currently an average daily census of over 1,100 patients. So, is there a secret? Not really. Um, treat patients like family, integrate into your community, make sure that you are doing the right things by people, and the word will get out that you are a good company and you take good care of patients. And I think you will see your referrals start to increase, and you will get paid back 100-fold.
Yeah. The secret is do everything right. Hire good people, be a good person. Yeah, but the good news is that those of you who are showing up with a good heart, trying to do right, like, are already ahead of those weird scammy people out there who just heard that there's money in home health, and they're trying to get their piece. So
Oh,
keep
come
up
on,
the good
Amy.
work.
There aren't any of those in home health. They're not in the business to make money. They're into the business to take care of people. I'm being facetious. Some are and some aren't, but um, yeah, we want, the whole reason that we're doing what we're doing is we want the people who are in the business for the right reasons to have every benefit possible. We want to encourage them. We want to, provide resources. We want the right people in this industry, and we want them to be successful.
Absolutely. Speaking of, this is the first in a series about marketing. We're hoping to have a couple of additional topics, maybe even a guest who can speak to this more pointedly. Do you want to give any bit of a preview, Mama?
Just one of our most successful marketing directors has consented to do a podcast with us. We're not sure on the date yet, just because we have to confirm her availability. But I think she'll have some really good suggestions for people, and is the person behind what I think has been the marketing side of our success as an agency.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I can't wait for that. And if you've got questions about your agency marketing, whether it's kind of overall strategy, or maybe you're finding yourself in what feels kind of hopeless. I always have a big heart for people who are like, no, I really believe in this company, but they don't have their marketing together. Like, feel free to ask some pointed questions, and we'll collect anything you have and try to work it in. So we appreciate you. That's pretty much it for today, and we love to see you next Friday online. Um, look for our Friday Q&A. We try to do it about 9:30 Pacific every week, but there may be some flux to that because this is a legacy project and a work of the heart. So
And
give
we
us
from
a
time
chance.
and we from time to time have some technical difficulties,
Yes, does
mostly on my
happen.
side.
Well, you know, country living and all that. But yeah, we'll try to post weekly, and look out for your Q&A, and see you next time. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.